This series is in tribute to Evelyn Long. Just before her passing, the phenomenal newspaper writer Evelyn Long personally wrote to me her experience of the Cardington tornado. In Evelyn's words, she writes, "My view of the 1981 tornado. 3 things stick with me about the June 13th, 1981 tornado. The low clouds immediately following the storm, the eerie silence, and the way the storm missed objects right in its path, and finally, the help that came from all over the country. I remember looking out across the field just outside the village, a few minutes after the storm had whirled its way down Main Street, seeing this really low cloud just drifting along. I told my husband to look at that. That was before we hit the town's entry a few seconds later. The cloud just floating lazily along. As we sat at the railroad tracks waiting on the go-ahead to find a way to our home, we looked down North Marion Street to the heart of the village, shocked. What had been there an hour before we drove out of town was nothing but a crumbled mass of concrete, wood, and once business buildings. Then the deadly silence that enveloped the village, that ended when the pouring rain came. Later, I found such oddities, as every tree in the village park was snapped off. However, the century-old log cabin, not one log ruffled. Now that was weird. Finally, the groups and people who were here the next day to start cleaning and rebuilding. I'm still amazed at the goodness there is in people. Many spend weeks here helping to rebuild houses and business buildings. Those were some of my impressions. I covered many stories as I was with the Marion Star then and was in meetings attended by our council members, mayor, and the Ohio Governor, James Rhodes. Everyone did a fantastic job.
These apartments near the outskirts of town probably were the first buildings hit, and Gary Plott may have been the first person to see the twister from his front porch.
I slammed the door and grabbed my 2 kids, and by that time the door had hit me in the back and covers both and all the kids and stuff under the house.
Plott rescued his family, including his wife, who's expecting to give birth next week. As night fell, National Guardsmen began patrolling the streets to keep looters out, while the high school became an emergency shelter for hundreds of homeless. The town went to sleep, a shambles. It's now 6 o'clock Sunday morning. This is the business district of downtown Cardington, what's left of it anyway. And this is what the people of this town had to wake up to today. Man destroyed what little Mother Nature didn't to prevent already weak buildings from collapse. Upon awakening, residents sifted through the rubble, those who were able to. Governor Rhodes said the state will help people relocate and rebuild. Now Washington must help.
We will wire the president to expedite all of the federal help as soon as he can. I don't know that a community has been hit overall as much as Cardington.
First thing I saw, everything was a mess. My house was there, it was intact.
Can imagine.
But everything a mess. I went into the home and water is leaking in everywhere. And we had a slate roof on the house. The house was built in 1899. Had a slate roof and it just lifted up, like 10 square foot sections of slate. A slate is really a good roof as long as you don't walk on it.
Yeah.
It's not compromised. So water had been pouring into the house the whole day and pretty well saturated everything in our home, in the floors below. Ceilings, everything with the wallpaper.
I went down there the next day just to see if we could find anything. We were trying down there going to see if we could find anything, but everything was full of fiberglass insulation. It was selling too.
Yeah.
So we had to close on the back.
My oldest brother came down to check on us, but by that evening, the National Guard had been in town patrolling the streets. You're not allowed out for torches. They worried about looting and stuff. My brother was a military person. He was probably a major in the Air Guard up at Mansfield, so he had credentials. They let him into town. He came in and checked on me to see everything was okay. So, of course, the work began immediately the next day of cleanup, repair. But what we came home to was, a mess.
Can imagine.
I remember that morning, the morning after, I slept on the couch. We had the dry couch. I slept for the night. And next morning walked downtown, which is about 2 blocks away, and just saw the destruction. And buildings destroyed, bricks laying everywhere, already heavy equipment moving in to clear the streets so you could get vehicles through. And of course, no electricity. News people in town everywhere. Helicopters and planes, that's what I remember. All day long, you heard helicopters flying around, airplanes flying around. You heard heavy equipment with their backup. Beep, beep, beep. And our daughter, who was just 2 years old, she couldn't say a whole lot of words, but she'd be up in her crib going beep, 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 because that's what she heard all day long.
Good evening, everyone. Another person was counted among the dead in Cardington today from the tornado that ripped through the town yesterday. That raises the death toll to 4. More than 50 others were injured, 120 homes and 42 businesses heavily damaged, and over 160 families have been dislocated. Governor Rhodes is calling for help from federal disaster officials, calling the damage the worst proportionally in Ohio's history. Rescue workers are still sifting through the rubble, looking for the missing. Here's more now from Mac McElroy.
On this Flag Day, not much of a celebration. The buzzing of power saws and the clanging of heavy machinery against tons of rubble depicted this Sunday afternoon in Cardington. It was a day to put all hands together and begin the long and treacherous task of cleaning up the path of destruction left behind by a tornado late yesterday afternoon. It all happened quickly, say the residents, but it lasted long enough to leave a heavy amount of damage. Just about everywhere in the small Morrow County town, the same familiar picture. Mobile homes overturned, one literally wrapped around a tree. Valuables blown several yards away, some damaged beyond repair. And even those valuables depicting more festive and happier times were not exempt from the tornado's force. Most of the Cardington residents say it's not really a time to give up, but a time to roll up the sleeves, dust off, and start all over. That means eliminating some old favorites containing some fond memories.
I grew up 22 years in the house, of course, the Brown house, 2 doors down, the library next door, and matter of fact, I spent most of my life, quite honestly, playing up and down the street, of which there's very little of anymore.
You plan to rebuild?
I don't believe so at this time. My mother's still determining that on her own right now, and Sushi contacts the insurance agency. The house is about 115 years old, and a lot of wood beams underneath, and we don't even know if it's conceivable to even put it together. So it's just a matter of time. I think she would like to, but I don't know if it's going to be financially possible for her to do so.
For one victim, an uncertain future concerning the possibility of rebuilding.
It depends, a lot of factors involved on that sort of thing. I can't tell for sure. Just have to wait and see.
In Cardington, Mac McElroy, Newswatch 4.
In 1981, I was, as I was before that as well, but I was practicing as an attorney in Cardington. I had just gone out on my own earlier that year, actually. I bought a house downtown, Cardington, and it had been used in the past as a law office, so I converted it back to a law office.
Yeah.
And Dean Curl, who was from Cardington originally, he had his office there one time. I was functioning also as an assistant prosecutor.
Okay.
And I had a trial coming up on a Monday, which would have been the 15th of June, 1981. So on the 13th, I was getting ready for this trial. I was up at the courthouse, getting ready, and I heard the weather was bad. I wasn't thinking too much of it. Still working up there, and it's, you know, the clouds were, it was raining a lot, the clouds, heard thunder and all that stuff. I didn't, again, think much of it. And I don't know what time it was, but I decided to go outside and check things out. And I had heard that there was a tornado down in Cardington, so I thought, well, I better go down there and see what's happening. So I drove down, and we had the roads blocked off on 42, so I couldn't get in. I say, hey, Dennis, can I get down to see my office? He looks at me and says, what office? Went into a different mode at that time, which was the helping mode. I started working with the Red Cross, but I also was working with the village. And at the time, Governor James Rhodes was on top of everything. He kind of thrived on disasters in a sense. He was Johnny on the spot. So.
My husband was, he always looked forward, he never looked back. He says, you can't worry about what happened, you know, you can't change it. We have to move forward and go from here. And he had a great sense of humor. You need a great sense of humor in this life.
Yes, I
Anything,
agree.
no matter what you're doing, you need a great sense of humor.
Most of the downtown was falling today. Cranes were lifting what was left of the business section into trucks to be hauled away, while owners were salvaging all they could. It was quite a sight, but spectators weren't welcome.
Yeah, they do get in the way a little bit, afraid of some of the people getting hurt, walls collapsing. A lot of these structures just aren't very secure right now.
Gawkers weren't the only difficulty encountered in the cleanup effort. For the second day in a row, Cardington got no sympathy from Mother Nature.
It's really hot. I mean, almost everybody is just about cooked at this point because of the sun. Yeah, quite a bit.
It promises to be a long, hot summer of hard work in Cardington. From Morrill County, John Damschroeder, Action 6 News.